Guys, I realize that I've been pushing you away, but if I summarize some of the lies that brought me to this place, I can't isolate a single reason I have walked away. Besides, I like living my life alone, but that's not why we're made. An airplane without wings will only dive just like
What's up,
anything else.
guys?
A flower in the
This is
shade survives,
Josiah
but that's not how
Gardiner,
it's made to thrive.
back
People's
with you
emotions are not
for
dying out in the open, so
another
it gets
podcast,
quiet and
another
transforms and
episode.
multiplying every
Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about the song called "Anxiety" that I have written and produced, and um, I mean, kind of just the story behind what I wrote it about. Um, just lots of people think that maybe I've written it about myself and kind of what certain things that I've struggled with, and that was partly the case. But I also wrote this song um, because of a suicide from one of my friends. And so that's what mostly inspired uh, the writing of this song. And so I want to just be upfront and say some of the things that we're going to talk about might be a little bit of like some sensitive topics. And so if that's something that bothers you, this is probably not the right episode for you to listen to. Um, but yeah, so I mean, um we can continue on because there's a lot around this topic. There's a lot surrounding mental health nowadays, and so I think it's important that we talk about it, and I think it's really important that we kind of address how do you overcome this sort of thing, and how do we how do we live in a culture that struggles so much with anxiety, that struggles with so much with depression? I think these are things that's really important to talk about. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit in this episode. So I'm sorry it's not a very happy and energetic type episode, but I think it's something we need to talk about. Um, so before we start, I'm going to pray and then we can get going. So, dear Jesus, I thank you so much for this day. Jesus, I pray for this episode, this podcast, God, that people might just be able to reconcile what's going on, either inside of them or inside of people that they know and people that they love. Jesus, so many people are affected by this thing. So, God, we just want to bring this to you. Amen. All right. So, first thing, I want to talk to you about kind of where I was at during the time that I started writing the song Anxiety. Um, it was my, I guess, junior year of college. And actually, no, yeah. Yep, yeah. It was junior year. Junior year of college. It feels like so long ago, but it really isn't. Anyways, so it was my junior year, and I had several anxiety attacks, which is something completely new to me at that time. Of like, I had never had one of those before. I didn't really know why it was happening, and I had several anxiety attacks at the beginning of I believe the second semester my junior year, and it was kind of a crazy time, and I was trying to reconcile kind of what was going on inside of me and like emotionally and why these things were happening, and I was trying to figure out like why have I never experienced this, and then all of a sudden I just had like, I don't know, 4 different anxiety attacks within a couple months. And I was maybe a few months, I don't remember, but I was just really struggling with that of like it just all of a sudden started, and I was trying to figure out were there any triggers, why that could have been. And it turns out there were several things going on at that time that were triggering the anxiety attacks, and we're triggering just high emotions and that type of thing. And for me, I was having anxiety attacks. During, like, I would be sleeping, I would be in a dream, and then something crazy would happen in my dream, and I would wake up and I would be in an anxiety attack. And so that happened a couple times. Um, and then one time I was driving, I was doing a 14-hour long drive during the day, and I had listened to about 10 hours of murder podcasts because my brain was just dead. I just wanted to listen to something, and I just clicked on the podcast, and it just went for about 10 hours. And it turns out that was very triggering for me. And shocker. I mean, it's stupid, first of all, but I had gotten back to the college campus, and having listened to that many hours of murder mystery podcasts, and it messed with my head. Like, oh my goodness, like, I had gone to sleep, um, and woken up and just had a really, really bad, anxiety attack. And so, anyways, long story short, there were several triggers, and the podcast thing was just one of the few triggers, for me. And, so I had to kind of figure out, okay, why are these things happening, and what can I do to prevent myself from having to either experience, like, go through that. So obviously I'm not going to be listening to that many hours worth of podcasts anymore. Um, and how can I prevent myself from being in those type of situations in which I freak out? And so that was one thing. Um, so during this time of songwriting and things like that, I had just come out of this those uh those anxiety attacks, and something that was really, really helpful for me was, I had a friend, and I was telling him about the first one that I had had, and he was like, "Bro, I mean, we're in the same dorm and things," and he was like, "Hey, if you need to, knock on my door, wake me up, whatever, do it. I mean, he was like, it's no big deal. At least I can be there for you while this is happening." And I was like, "Okay, all right, man, I'll do that." And you know, a few weeks later, woke up with another one, and I went to his door, knocked on his door. It was probably 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was up. He was there to talk, and that's something I really, really needed, was somebody to talk to. Um, and I think the last person I wanted to talk to was my mom at that point, so I was not about to call her. Mom, if you're listening to this, please don't freak out. I'm fine. Um, and so, um, anyways, I knocked on his door, and he talked me through it. It was awesome, and just took about, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, and I was just like, I felt like I was back to normal, and so I went back to bed. And so it was just, man, it really kind of blindsided me, like, these anxiety attacks, like it was not something that I feel like I could have ever prepared myself for, because it was just something that was, I'd never experienced that before. And so, things such as, like, being more independent, and having to figure out certain things, um, as far as, like, more responsibility, adulting, all that fun stuff, kind of put some pressure on my shoulders. And I feel like I was learning how to manage all of that still. And so I think that played a big part, um, in that sort of thing. And there was just a lot of things going on, that semester, that was just a little bit too much for me. And so, having a friend to really just be there and support me, um, in the midst of some of that stuff was just, man, it was just great. So, um, so if any of you guys have ever experienced anything like that, um, if- something that I think is really important is that you communicate that with somebody else. You talk to people, friends, family, counselors, that type of deal, and be very. I mean, honestly, be very vocal about it. And the last thing you want to do is keep that to yourself, because that type of issue really just becomes worse and worse in isolation. And so, for me, something super helpful was just bringing this out to some friends and talking about it, and you'd be surprised the amount of support and things and how much that would help. So um, so coming out of these anxiety attacks, um, I was I was like, man, wow, this is like a big issue, and started going to some counseling for it, and turns out counseling was also really, really helpful. Um, so did some of that, and one thing I'll say about that is I think there's a lot of stigma, negative stigma around, like, about counseling and needing counseling and, things like that, uh, and I don't think there should be that negative stigma, because everybody struggles in all sorts of different ways, uh, at different times of their life, and so just to reach out for help, like, I see nothing wrong with that, and the fact that there's this negative, like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this," nobody goes to counseling. I think you'd be surprised, and, and so going to counseling was so helpful for me. I was able to share, uh and just talk to somebody about, man, this is what I'm struggling with, and they were able not just to give me advice, but they were able just to listen. Like, I think there's something really important about just talking to somebody and being like, hey, I'm having a lot of hard times with that, and this is why, and being able just to let it out. It was so helpful for me. And so I went through a little bit of counseling, and that just to get me on my feet and just to make me feel okay. I think I'm okay now, and it really helped me. Um so uh so that was kind of the season, and the last thing that kind of like brought me to this stage of like, okay, I'm gonna write a song, was I had a friend who had committed suicide, and he he was 18 years old, had turned 18 just the week before, and so he had committed suicide, and that was just a big blow, to a lot of, a lot of people, and that was really one of the things that just brought me to this point of like, wow, something is wrong, and somebody needs to talk about it, and somebody needs to to just be more open and be more vocal about it, to be honest, because I don't think that we talk about it enough, especially in Christian circles, because we all kind of want to make it feel like we have our lives together, and we all kind of want to act like we're okay when a lot of us might be struggling, and so I started writing the song, and started writing about it, and and got an instrumental from a friend, and he's featured in the song, Elijah Coleman. And what I mean, I'm just gonna talk about it just a little bit of just like, I just thought it was so cool, having an instrumental of this kind of like feeling, because it's a lo-fi beat, And I love that because lo-fi beats are usually like that soothing type of music that you just wanna do homework to, like like it kinda calms you down, and so, like, I just loved the idea of writing, like, lyrics about anxiety and depression and that type of deal to this kind of soothing music uh 'cause man, um, just something about, uh the instrumental just really just calms you down, and so, I mean, I've had times where I'm dealing with some stuff and you just wanna unwind, and so I love that instrumental, so shout out to Elijah Coleman, bro, you're goated, you're awesome. So so, so started writing that, um, and produced it, whatever. I think it turned out pretty good. And something else I wanted to talk about was I had my first joint youth group event um, later that summer after having produced it. And actually, it hadn't been released yet, but it was my first. The song had been finished. In the writing process and everything. And I had a joint youth group event in the summer, and I was going to perform this song for them. And um, and for a lot of the songs, I'm dancing around they're pretty hype and very high energy, and for this song, I thought I would really scale it back, and it would be more like spoken word type deal. And so I just had the mic just in the stand, and I was really just confined to one spot and just kind of just reciting the lyrics in a way. And man, like it was a very powerful, like, powerful moment, and, um, and something that I think was really, really impactful was, as I was performing this song, um, I didn't see it from the stage, but I was told after the event was over, I was told that there was a girl in the crowd who was, kind of repping kind of an emo type, outfit, and, had the choker and all the dark, clothes and everything. And man, she just started crying, um, and I think it was, like, a pretty intense crying because it was to the point where one of the adults saw it, and she was able to come and talk to her and things like that, and that's exactly the type of thing that I had hoped would happen in a way. I mean, it was just so impactful, and I think there's this inner tension and this inner anxiety that people are feeling and walking around with every single day of their lives, that it's like, "Man, like, this is not okay. This is not okay. This is not what God wants, for his people, is this inner tension, this inner turmoil that we live in every day. There's actually a freedom and a release from this stuff that God wants to bring into our lives. And so that's exactly the type of reaction that I've been hoping and praying for, um, because it's unnecessary burdens that we are walking around with as believers, and just the world as a whole. And um, so all of these things have been kind of going on in my head and in my heart, and um, just all these things I've just kind of wanted to share. Um, Solutions as far as like how can you handle how do you go about handling just daily stresses, daily anxieties, um, panic attacks, that sort of thing. I mean, how do you go about um, managing that type of thing? And some of the different things that have helped me in dealing with some of my own anxiety and some of my own stresses is, I would say, one, tell people about it. like I had already said, be vocal about it. Don't just be in don't be in, don't be in solitude or whatever, and don't just keep it to yourself because that only makes the problem worse. And be vocal about it. Tell friends. Um, Part of that also is maybe go to counseling. Counseling's so helpful. Um, so do not just let it just happen. Just let people know. Something else that's really helped me in managing all those things is exercising. I've become like a more and more consistent runner throughout my years at college because I've had to manage the workload and the stresses of college and the homework and all that fun stuff. And so running for me is an outlet that just allows me to just take a moment in my day and not have to think about anything, but just really just exert my energy into this thing. And so exercise has been just so helpful for me. Um, and then lastly, I would say take care of your mental health. Um, like be conscious about it. Don't just go with the flow. Manage your time, and if you feel like you're doing too much and you're not getting enough rest, um, man, get sleep, 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 because anxiety and stress is not managed well on a brain that's only working at 20%. Um, that's been a big learning curve for me. Is being very conscious about my rest. And I talk about it in the song "Anxiety." At the end of um, if you feel like you need rest, go get it, please. um, uh, so not just for your sake, but for everybody else's sake as well. Just take care of your mental health. And so anyways, those are all I think important things that people need to be just aware of and talk about a little bit. And so yeah, um, I guess that's pretty much everything I had to say. So thanks so much. And I mean, this episode is a little bit more weighty than I think they will be in the future. So I hope to come out with episodes that hopefully have a little bit less weightiness to it. But even still, I'm glad that you guys were able to tune in and we were able to talk about some of those things. And I just hope that this was helpful. So thank you for listening, and y'all take care.